This week, we've seen motherly righteousness, mythological rebellions, and multiversal rope-a-dopes. Let's dive right into what's on the pull list. This week, we're going to start with Aquaman number 13, written by Jeremy Adams with artwork by Daniel Bayliss. So Aquaman's daughter is rallying an army for battle. All the while, Arthur is also doing battle here within the DCKO event. And Mara's past kind of comes back to haunt her just a little bit. So it's difficult to write an Aquaman book when your title character is not part of the overarching narrative. So I need to provide a little bit of grace when I talk about this, but I have to say, this issue was a total head scratcher. Am I reading this correctly? I had reached out to some Aquaman aficionados here, particularly Comic Patrol. Make sure you check out his videos and his comic reviews as well. And it seems like this book is now leading us down a path where Arthur's newfound daughter is maybe really his mother-in-law. I got nothing. I don't know what's going on here. Arthur is in 2 pages of this issue. The narrative felt a little bit muddy, and I've been a fan of this series moving forward, and I thought that there was a really great adventurous tone that Jeremy Adams was bringing to it. This issue did nothing, though. It did absolutely nothing to further the narrative. It did nothing to get me excited about what's happening here, and the characters and the character motivations felt completely out of whack, and something was off with this issue. Didn't have a great time with it. Hopefully, they have a good bounce back as soon as Arthur gets back into the book proper. All right, let's talk Avengers number 34, written by Jed MacKay and Brian Michael Bendis, with artwork by Farid Karami and Mark Bagley. So the Avengers are facing off with Kang as McKay's journey with this team is beginning to start to take its victory lap here. We know that McKay's time with this book is coming to a close, and this is kind of the beginning of his last story run. And I've been a lapsed reader on Avengers since about the end of the first arc, beginning of the second arc of McKay's time with here. And I have to say, like, there were gripes that I had. But what I'm seeing now in reading this is that there was those gripes had a reason to be in the book, right? There was a reason that those things existed. We're now just kind of learning about what those were. The cool thing about this is that this Avengers story felt very classic and very silly, but I mean that in a good way. It felt almost akin to like a 70s era type Avengers story. In fact, there's not a punch to be thrown here. They take on Kang the Conqueror all through the definition of what it means to be a hero, right? And kind of like further defining that and showing Kang the error of his ways, or maybe some of the things that maybe he did right, even though he intended to do them wrong, or maybe even vice versa. The other cool thing here is that Bendis got to have a little backup story here in celebration of the 800th issue. And I got to say, it was everything I wanted it to be. It was giving me vibes of the early 2000s and Bendis's time in the Marvel Universe, particularly on Avengers. And it felt classic in the same way because they brought Mark Bagley along to draw the story as well. Great team up. I can't wait to see that Bendis is actually coming back to Marvel, maybe to do a little bit more. This whet my appetite, and it got me excited in ways that his other current work really hasn't done recently. All right, with our next issue, we have DCKO number 3, written by Scott Snyder and Joshua Williamson, with artwork by Javier Fernandez. So, round 3 has begun, and our champions have been narrowed down to 8. And that's soon to be 4, and it's not going to take too long. We get more silly fun with this, right? That's what this series is all about. It's Mortal Kombat by way of the DC universe. But what we're seeing is that there's connective tissues between the DC proper and the absolute universe that are getting toyed with even more so. We got little glimpses, little hints of what that meant previously, but now we're getting to see how close we are to that kind of, I don't know, that point where they connect coming to fruition here very, very soon. I gotta say, one of the coolest things, though, was seeing the Joker match up with Mr. Mxyzptlk and kind of seeing them join forces, and it was awesome. It was kind of like madness made manifest, and I haven't seen that before. I'm sure they must have teamed up in the past here at some point or another, but this is my first time seeing it myself, and I gotta say, it totally worked for me. If you're looking for silly, dumb fun, DCKO is definitely where it's at. I'm curious to see how much of an impact this actually has on both universes. Time will tell on that, but it's undeniable I'm having fun with it. All right, let's talk Geiger number 20, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Gary Frank. So this is a bit of a downer issue here. Tariq has given up basically. He's left his companions. He's left behind the thought of like finding a cure for the his cursed powers. He's given up on hope. But a time traveler from the past may have another plan in mind for our dude. Geiger is in a funk right now, and the thing is, nobody's got time for that right now. We have time travelers that require maybe even more than a whole armory and Tariq's help here in making sure that events that happen in the past actually happen the way that they need them to. Geiger is feeling more and more like the focal point of the rest of the unnamed universe as we get to see those intersections now finally starting to take place. Similar to other books that I've even talked about this week, we're starting to see the focal point come into, I don't know, contact with one another here. We're starting to see the Venn diagram closing in. The Northerner is here and he gets to interact with Geiger through the majority of this issue. It looks like the crossover between all of these different unnamed properties is finally now happening. We've gotten Geiger and the Joe character. We've seen glimpses of Redcoat, but now like everything is coming in here. We still haven't seen the first Ghost as of yet, at least in his own book proper. But time will tell on that part of it. What I can say is this was incredibly fun, and I can't wait to see once those characters get to face one another in a full entire issue altogether. Next up, we have Minor Arcana number 13, written and drawn by Jeff Lemire. So, Teresa has finally been able to track down her friend's brother who's been in hiding, but in doing so, she kind of further puts herself in the crosshairs of this magical community, and it's definitely putting her in peril's way, right? Jeff Lemire really shines in this issue as we get a heartfelt experience, right? We get Teresa sharing her own life experiences, her struggles, the overwhelming hopelessness of a lot of our different characters, and I love that Teresa gets to open up to those experiences as she's trying to help this character kind of like see his own way out of the darkness. Now, the thing is, she can only offer that ladder and say, I've been where you are, I know the way out. It's that person's choice to be able to then kind of decide whether or not they want to take that route. I can't help but also talk on the magical aspects of this book since it feels like Teresa's abilities are evolving or changing. Something is going on with them because they were all really kind of driven within this dreamscape that she would enter where she saw her grandfather or she saw events of the town's past, and we saw linkages with the events that have happened and maybe people that have passed away. But now it feels like the scope of that power is opening, and that could be her, I don't know, closeness with this magical criminal organization slash cult that she's dealing with. Time will tell on that, but we see that the scope of it is definitely widening. I can't wait to see once they do cross paths proper and what kind of peril that leads Teresa to be in. All right, let's talk Our Soot Stained Heart number 2, written by Joni Hogg with artwork by Stippen Morian. So Peggy's journey has kind of, come to its fruition. It's come to its end to find the Baron, and it was a success, but she may not be getting what she expected with the man she thinks is supposed to ignite this revolution. The folklore Santa-esque story continues, but as I reviewed issue number 1, I said that future issues will really define my feeling for that one. And well, I gotta say, I feel the exact same way. I dig it, and I don't know why. There's nothing in here that like kind of clarifies what's happening in the storyline here. It doesn't really kind of give you the further details and like this clean narrative that you would expect. It's spoon feeding you details, and it's playing with a lot of mythological tropes that I really like, particularly with the Baron, our Santa character, who's also maybe kind of a stand-in for an Odin character who gives up his eye for the power of knowledge. There's a lot of cool things that are being played with, and I dig those things. But I kind of want to know what it all means too, because the coalition is still out there. We don't necessarily know why it's there and what they are benefiting from, with people on the naughty list getting coal and how that all links together. I have the loosest idea, but that's about as far as I can go. The artwork in here, though, is absolutely great. Stippen Morian takes a little bit of a different aspect here. I've been a fan of his since the 20th Century Man days, but in this issue, it's different even than issue number 1 because I feel like that artistic style changes from page to page. And it's not necessarily something that's driven by the narrative. It's just kind of happens. And I'm not going to say that's bad. It doesn't take me out of the experience, but it's a very interesting choice. I'm kind of curious as to see what the reasoning was behind that. Either way, I really enjoyed both looks that they kind of took on this book. Can't wait to see how this moves forward. I think this is going to be one of those stories that I'm not going to know how I really feel about it until the end, but I'm definitely along for the ride. All right, let's talk Space Ghost number 7, written by David Papos with artwork by Jonathan Lau. So, Jan and Jace's grandfather has harnessed this new energy source, this antimatter generator. However, a sabotage attempt exposes him to that antimatter, and he's unquestionably changed forever. These kids, like, they cannot catch a break at all in this series. David Papos has put them through the ringer. Parents, gone. Grandfather, evil. Space Ghost, yeah, that dude was a space vampire just last issue. Okay, but for real, this was a really exciting issue, and I like how it was inherently more challenging, right? Because the foe now has familial ties to the characters, and now Space Ghost can't just punch his way through the problem. There needs to be something more that happens here, and we don't really know what that is yet, and that's exciting. We're going to have to wait until the next issue, maybe even more issues, to find out how this all kind of wraps itself out. Lau, I've said this before, but he can't miss. I keep praising his artwork, and I'm going to keep doing it so long as he keeps delivering issues just like this. And let's be honest, we're in year 2 of Papos and Lau doing Space Ghost. There's no sign of this team slowing down. Make sure you check this out. Great superheroics, great classic feeling storytelling with modern artistic flair. Totally digging this. All right, let's talk Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 14, written by Gene Luen Yang with artwork by Freddie Williams II. So the turtles are attempting to track down the Ujigami, and it pulls them directly into the lair of none other than the Foot Clan. Can't think of a worse place to need to be to fight another villain when you already got villains staring right down at you. We get little bits and nods to like the greater world of TMNT here, and I really appreciate Yang's approach on that. Right, we get some of the mutants that are in court here. We get a quick cameo from the character of Old Hob. We get a little bit of April O'Neil and Baxter Stockman, who's now in the hospital due to the Ujigami and what he did to him in the previous issue. All really cool stuff. Ultimately, this what we're getting here all kind of hinges on what Donnie was experiencing during Aaron's arc on the story and the mystery of the Ujigami. And boy, oh boy, we get some progress in those areas. By the last page of this issue, there's a little bit of a revelation here. I don't want to spoil it, but trust me when I say that it's definitely worthwhile. I don't think it's incredibly shocking, but we're building towards something, and that's really cool. Ultimately, Turtles has me wanting more and more, right? I'm still incredibly invested, and my fear when Aaron left the title has totally been washed away. I'm in this for the long run. Next up, we have The Ultimates number 20, written by Dennis Camp with artwork by Phil Noto. In this issue, the Ultimate Network has been brought down, right? We're in the middle of the Maker's return as we have Ultimate Endgame, and we had the previous issue of Ultimates, which like just came out with issue number 19. So all hell is breaking loose. And we're starting to understand, I guess, maybe the true happenings of what the Ultimates Network truly is and what's been happening in the Ultimate Universe even before the Maker started tinkering with everything. I didn't see most of this coming, and that's a cool thing when we can get subverted expectations and surprises, especially with big two comics. That doesn't happen all that often. So bravo to the team on this one for delivering things that I couldn't have expected. It's really cool seeing the smoldering fires in the background that have been brewing in the earliest days of the Ultimate Universe finally come to fruition with our character of Jim Hammond and what he truly is and how he has evolved and changed and what that means for everything that's happening right now as the fight with the Maker is kind of moving forward. It's just great. What Marvel really needs to do, if I'm being completely honest, is back the freaking money truck up right to Dennis Camp and say, you craft our worlds, you craft our narratives, tell us how to create great stories, because Dennis Camp has truly been the one person at Marvel that has been doing phenomenal work unquestionably for the longest period of time right now with the current ongoing series that are happening. And like, to lose that is gonna suck. Like with these stories coming to an end and the Ultimate Universe coming to an end, Man, without Dennis Camp in your camp, that's going to be a rough one here. So we'll find out what his next projects are. We know he has other non-Marvel work happening, but Marvel, if you're kind of thinking about this stuff, maybe pay the man. And with my runner-up pick of the week, let's talk Die Loaded number 3, written by Kieran Gillen with artwork by Stephanie Hans. Sophie is quick to figure out the inner workings of the Die world, and she sees this potential path to get home. But we know that she's not the only person in this world. The party expands here as Saul's mother has now kind of come into into this world, right? And she's starting to learn what it means about her son crafting this world. And she kind of puts her, I don't know, her feelings, her emotions behind her plans for retribution. Gillen's mastery of character development and kind of motivation is on full display here. So, if you've read the original Die series, you know the secrets of the world, right? You know how this group they need to do to get home. So everything should be easy, right? No, it's definitely not. Not when you have characters with a vested interest in staying, and that's what we're getting. But it doesn't feel like it's shoehorned in. It feels very natural, and it feels like there is a clear motivation for a certain character to want to stick around and maybe cause some damage here. When it comes to the artwork, the color palette of this book is just incredible. Hans delivers these tones that just fit so well with the emotional weight of each page and each character's interaction and like everything that's happening with this book. It fits the landscape, it fits the feeling. It just works out so great here. Stephanie Hans is doing fantastic work. Man, I didn't think I would be this excited to kind of re-enter the Die world, but let me tell you, this could be shaping up to be even better than the original. And with my top comic of the week, let's talk Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Rites of Spring number 5, written and drawn by Patrick Horvath. So apparently a sequel series is really what's kind of piquing my interest right now between Die Loaded and this. Monica's world is turned upside down in this issue, right? The mystery of her brother's disappearance is resolved, kind of. But when the real truth rears its ugly head, it changes everything for her and Samantha. Like the first word that comes to mind is just whoa, just whoa. This might be one of the most shocking issues in a series that has been full of shocking issues each and every time we get one delivered. The walls are closing in completely on Samantha, yeah, and yet somehow, some way, she has a plan. There's always a contingency. There's always something that she has set up here to make sure that she can make her getaway and make sure that kind of she stays one step, two step, three steps even ahead of every single person. The most gut wrenching part of all of this, though, is that the town has kind of become its own character. You have a vested interest in all of these people. It's vital to the story and my kind of excitement level and my enjoyment for everything that's happening. So, what happens when the town is irrevocably shaken to its core and changed forever in a way that Samantha is not going to get away with? Yeah, that's the kind of cliffhanger that we're delivered in this issue. I don't know what the answer is to this. I know for a fact, though, I will be around to find out what that answer will truly be. And it makes me curious. Is this an end for our time with Samantha, or is this just a new beginning? Time will tell on that part of it, but I have to say it was absolutely worthy of Top Comic of the Week. So that's what I've got for you this week, but I'm more curious. What did you read, and what were your thoughts? Do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe, consider memberships on the channel, and be part of the panel. Leave me a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll talk to you next week.